Welcome to the Toka Backstage Podcast. Join Toka's Executive Director, Chris Wolf, in conversations with the artists and people behind the scenes of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation's performances and events.
Hi, this is Chris Wolf, the Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation. One of the shows that we had to postpone this season was Magic Up Close. It's a great evening of entertainment where we bring magicians into the Nakano Theatre in a very intimate setting, and they perform tricks right in front of your eyes. It's just an amazing event. This year we had lined up Jonathan Levit and George Tovar, who were going to perform. We are still planning on doing it. We just haven't been able to, we haven't been given the go-ahead to reschedule it. For those of you that don't know, when I was a teenager, I was a performing magician, and magic is something that I like to program every season, whether it's in the Nakano in this setting or on the Armstrong stage, just because it's an amazing art form. It's just great to watch people's reactions when they see, something that is supposedly impossible, but it happens right in front of their eyes. And it's a great form of escapism. I'm lucky enough to have several friends who are magicians, and it's just a great group of people, great performers, and a great art form that I like to support. And I'm thankful that you guys like to support it too. When we first did the Magic Up Close in the Nakano, somebody once told me that was the only way to see magic. And I kind of happen to agree, because close-up magic to me is just mind-boggling. Some of my friends will do a trick and I'll just, my mind will be blown. I'm like, So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this interview with George and Jonathan, and look forward to seeing you in the theater real soon. And if you have any comments, please let us know. We are always looking forward to hearing from our patrons and supporters of the arts. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Welcome to another edition of Toka Backstage. This is Christian Wolf, the Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation. It is my extreme honor to have Mr. George Tovar and Jonathan Levit who will be performing in Magic Up Close at the Nakano Theatre on April 17th and 18th, which is a Friday and Saturday. Showtime is 8 o'clock. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. I certainly do appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
So the thing about Magic Up Close was we've done the big stage shows with the tigers and the lions and the hoopla, but people are always more amazed when they're like up close and seeing it in front of them. As magicians, what inspired you to do close-up as opposed to getting into the big illusion arena? Let's start with you, George.
I actually used to do kind of stage magic. I used to do work with doves and things like that, and big tricks. And then I met a gentleman by the name of Earl Nelson, and he just changed my world. I decided I wanted to go into that direction. I was seeing things up close that he was doing, and I said, that's what I want to dedicate my life to. Also, I'm also an actor, so the idea of renting space to rehearse, assistants, all that thing, studios to work in, it was just more conducive to what I want to do in my career, which is I can walk around, I have a pack of cards, coins, whatever, and I can, work on my craft at all times, rather than doing stage stuff takes a lot more space, effort, time, that sort of thing.
Cool. How about you, Jonathan?
I actually, there we are. I started performing when I was 12 as a street performer. And so I was actually doing parlor style magic, but also growing up, always doing close-up magic, and also put my feet in and did some stage work, some illusion work, which figured out probably wasn't for me at the time. It was too short, actually too short. I couldn't reach the top blade. But I eventually came back to a little bit of it later in life. But so I kind of dabble in all of the areas, but close-up really is my favorite. And it goes to a little bit of what George is saying there too. It's you can have something on you at all times, or have nothing on you and still pick up something around you and do something. It's the most accessible I think, and to be able to do some magic and perform it right away. And so I've always dabbled in it, or I've always been committed to all forms of the art, but close up has always taken me. And ever since I was a kid, I was doing card tricks, and
And
reading and
do you guys remember the first card trick you learned?
I do. It was one of those TV magic card things. It was they're selling them in thrifty stores that don't even exist anymore. But the TV magic deck of cards, I bought it, and I came later to know. I learned on later that it's really an old thing called the Svengali deck. But this guy who marketed it called it TV magic cards, and it was the first trick I ever did. It was great.
I don't remember the first card trick I ever learned, but I remember the first card trick I ever performed in front of a group. My father was a magician, and he taught me this trick that involved 4 piles of 4 and some equivoque to kind of get down to 1 card, and it was the selected card, which ultimately, now that I think about the plot, is basically the same plot of every card trick we've ever done anyway. So
aren't they all?
all the same.
Pick a card, find it. Okay, then it's all dressing after that, isn't it, Jonathan?
100%.
One of the things I find interesting is when I was growing up and I was a young magician, I had a magic shop that I would spend every waking moment in with the guy who would show me new things, and that was sort of where the community started. Nowadays, it seems like everything is online, and there's that connection that's kind of missed, I think. Do you guys find that to be the case? And if so, is there a way to that you recommend kids learn and get connected to the community?
Yeah, unfortunately, the brick and mortar shops are less. There's less of them than there used to be, and they're so important. We have one shop here in Los Angeles, the Magic Apple, and it's a vital place, and we had Hollywood Magic, right? Georgia, you worked at Hollywood Magic.
I worked there for many years. That's where I met the gentleman I talked about, Earl Nelson. But even when I was a kid, I would go there. When I was 12 years old, my parents would take me there. It's a long drive for me back then as a kid, coming from Culver City to Hollywood, but they would take me once a month, and there was this old guy who was doing the tricks at the counter, and they taught you the tricks. But I thought he was the owner, but he wasn't. He was just a salesman who's just been there a long time. And it was like you said, a community, and it really kind of helped garner that thing. And then as I became a worker there, I started working there. Magicians from all over the country would stop there before working in the Magic Castle. And it was a great kind of a community thing, and that is gone now. That it seems like today's thing, it's all learning it through YouTube and things like that. And they really miss kind of that mentoring thing, because magic is not just the trick and the secret. It's really more about style and how you perform it and interacting with people. That's really a major part of magic. And online, you don't get that. It's just trick, secret. Oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
That's my
I would say also the magic organizations, the International Brotherhood of Magicians, primarily if you're young, but also the Society of American Magicians, which has the Society of Young Magicians. So these organizations are also vital. So if we can't take advantage of the magic shops, I would suggest that people reach out to those communities, to those groups. And even here in Los Angeles, we have the Magic Castle. We think, well, that's it, but it's not it. We have IBM and SAM and SYM chapters and rings.
they meet once a month, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, they do. And,
very helpful.
I would not be anywhere today without the International Brotherhood of Magicians Ring 1 in St. Louis, Missouri. I wouldn't be anywhere without it. The people that I was in there with and surrounded by, and the mentors that I had out of that were invaluable. So if you can't find a magic shop, which you should also find one of these organizations. And I remember, I had a story. I went home from college after freshman year, and during the summer, I went to one of the IBM meetings, International Brotherhood of Magicians. and in St. Louis. And there was a mother and a child, her child there. And I met them, and he was very introverted and very shy. And she said to me, well, he wanted to come here. I didn't want to bring him, She was not supportive. And so that summer I worked with him, and he took part in the IBM Ring meetings, and I worked with him a little bit on the outside. I came back a year later, and she came up to me and thanked me and said, this has changed his life. It's the best thing that could have happened to him. And he was, more extroverted and open, and it was life-changing. And I thought, well, I'm done. That's all I, what else do I need, we need to do. So those are the great moments. And those organizations are invaluable. And
but don't you also think, though, that that's kind of what magic does? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but speaking for myself, when I was 12, 13, I was like super introverted. And it wasn't until I learned how to put a coin under a handkerchief, drop it in a glass of water and pull it out, and it was gone, that it was like my life changed. And it was like, wow, I have the power to entertain people. That's pretty cool. Do you think that that's part of the magic of magic for people who get into it?
I totally agree. I mean, working in the magic shop, I would see these young kids and coming in, and they were kind of awkward and just not very self-confident. And the fact of doing a magic trick for somebody really just opened them up. And a lot of them, not most of them become professional magicians, but it didn't matter. It changed their life in that direction, that they could be. It was a way to start interacting with people that you didn't know, or even if you did know, if you weren't funny or you weren't the jock or whatever, it gave you that kind of comfortableness with them. Hey, I can do something, and you don't know how it's done, and they wanted to talk to you. You were fascinating now, and it's a really a great thing. So many people, and they went on in life doing other things, but it was a start, like you said. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So when you guys perform close up, do you ever get like concerned about some of the people that you're performing for if you're sitting at a table? I always have this envisionment of like somebody getting a little too handsy with the cards or the props. Does that ever happen to you guys?
Wow.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I mean, yeah, it's happened. But we control the situation, right? Somebody just asked me that the other day, actually. Yeah. We control the situation. I don't put myself usually in a position where I'm going to allow anything to happen that isn't acceptable. Or if something does go south or go in a direction I wasn't planning for, then I wouldn't be ready for it. I just don't put myself in that situation, right? So we have to control, we know when things can be touched, when they can't be touched. When we say, go ahead and shuffle the cards, and they do, and we react in a way that they've destroyed everything, well, they haven't destroyed everything, and it's okay. And we wouldn't have allowed you to shuffle the cards if you couldn't shuffle the cards. So when a magician says, go ahead and shuffle the cards, you don't have to shuffle the
cards. You're ruining one of the biggest secrets of magic, because I see people going, oh, I'm going to get them now. I'm going to get them now.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks. That goes half my act now. No, actually, it's really the key to that whole, we call them hecklers or over-aggressive spectators, is experience. And when I've taught students in the past, I go, look, there's nothing you can do. I can't teach you how to do that. It's experience. And I remember, my Johnson did street magic, but I used to work in restaurants when I was starting out. I worked in a magic shop. I learned my craft there and this mentor. And then I went out to start working restaurants, and that's like, people drinking, and it's late night, and they're aggressive. It's a bar, but nothing beats experience of doing it over and over. I would do, 15 performances a night, 5 nights a week. And after that, you just learn how to control, like John said, control situations. And so you can't do anything about that until you just do the show, just do the work in the trenches, and then you get it. And so now, yeah, I still get hecklers, but from experience, I've just learned how to control them, either by my voice, my attitude, by never letting a situation, letting myself, like Johnson said, be in a situation where they can ruin something. And you only get that from doing it thousands and thousands of times. There's just really no other way around it.
Yeah, sometimes I've noticed too that when things go a bit awry, like I have last year we did Steve Valentine's show.
Oh,
Um,
great show.
And there was a person that got up and they started going off on a tangent, and his reaction to that was pure brilliance. And it was like, it actually made the show a little more fun because he got to riff a little bit.
Yeah.
So when people come, here's a question: when people come see a magic show, as a performer, what is it you, besides fooling them, what is it you want to give to them, or what do you want them to walk away with?
Jonathan?
What do we want them to walk away with?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds pretty cliche to say a sense of awe and wonder and joy. But I would say a sense of wonder, awe, and joy. I used to, that's changed for me over the years. I used to believe I wanted them just to leave smiling, laughing, having a great time, and then on the drive home, reflecting and thinking, what just happened? And have them think about it later on. That's changed for me a bit now, and I want them to be for me, if I know that they're laughing and engaged and they're pulled in and they feel like a kid again, then I'm really happy. But also, I want them to have those moments of surprise and absolute astonishment during the show, right? I want those hits where they just say, I have no idea what just happened. So I want, it's a combination of those two things, but helping people feel like a kid again is kind of what it's all about.
And I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, that's exactly what I've said this since I was younger. As we get adults, we lose all these things that as a kid, there's wonder, the holidays, and all these things that we believe in that's magical and fairy tales and all that stuff. And as adults, you grow up and you go, hey, that's all kind of a thing. And magic, and I don't care how they react, like, oh yeah, it's just a trick. That one moment when they don't know what's happened, that one moment, just before the mask comes back on their face, they just go, I have no idea what just happened, how that's possible. You're bringing them back to that sense of wonder as a kid. And I've always felt that, that we're giving them, that's why magic I think is so valuable, is that for just a moment, and some people will never admit it. They go, nah, it's just a trick. Didn't matter. For the moment they don't know what's happened, they kind of went, I have no idea. It's a sensible. And I don't get to have that often anymore because I've been in the business for a long time. But when it happens to me, once in a while, a magician will come along and I go, I have no idea. It brings me back to what got me into magic. I just go, wow, I don't know what he did. And that's great. It's rare, but it happens. And it's a wonderful feeling. And I love it.
George, I was going to say the same thing. When we they say their biggest thrill as a magician is to be fooled, right? Because we never get to do that, right?
It's harder now.
Those moments. I mean, I you love it. You go, I love it. You have no idea. Last night, we saw Bob Gebert in the parlor at the Magic Castle.
Great, Bob, yeah.
And I don't know. I must have looked away at the wrong moment, but his last effect, I have no idea what he did.
Right.
I have no idea. And I'm trying to backtrack and it's awesome. Just awesome. It's a great feeling. Yeah. It doesn't happen often.
No.
Well, it's funny because the way you're describing that performance last night, I took a friend of mine to the castle. We sat in the close-up room and he was one of the people called up to help. And this was probably like a year and a half ago. And to this day, when we're with a group of people, he's like, and that time at the castle where the guy had me take the cards, and he like lights up talking about this effect. And of course, it gets a little more grandiose every time he tells it. Start off with a coin, now it's like 3 coins, and but it's too bad that the magician who did that couldn't see this guy to this day talking about that effect.
Right.
It's one of the joys that we have, right, is to hear what the retelling of a trick.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. And our job is to create a false reality for our audience, right? To give them impression of what happened that isn't necessarily what happened. Part of our job. And it's always fun to hear the playback. And, you know, it's sort of, that's also educational for us. We get to hear, did we do it right? Did we make them believe what we wanted them to believe? Right? Because it's not always, sometimes it's exact one-to-one, but it's not always one-to-one, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be the beauty of this show, is that it's in such an intimate space. It's almost like, for those who've never been, it's like going to the castle close-up room, because you have, you know, a small group of people and just one guy in a deck of cards or coins or whatever, blowing your mind. It's like, just, so I'm urging people, get your tickets now before they're all gone, because we can't add seats.
Well, Christian, I was going to mention that really quickly, that what you just said is that I'm a big believer in, because magic is so popular now on TV with Penn and Teller and all the shows and things like that. But I truly felt, and I always have, that magic to be experienced, like what you're talking about, has to be seen live. Because I don't care how many disclaimers they say that there's no trick things, that enters the mind. There's also the feeling of like, I'm watching what the camera is watching, rather than I can look anywhere I want. And to me, that's why I love, especially close-up magic, because even on the stage, I might go, hey, there's a trap door, there's a mirror, it's something, I don't know what. But when it's close up, you're right there. You're experiencing this thing, and there are no other filters. There's nothing there that can, and that's why I think what you're doing, this show is great. I do a lot of close-up shows all over. For people to experience that, I think it's one of the greatest things, in the sense that they get to watch it right there, and there's no other filters, and they know it's not anything trick, but just the magician and what he's using in his show. And I really, truly believe that I don't care how well they shoot on TV, it's not the same experiences as seeing close-up magic live. I really believe that.
But and going to that point, it's like when there's a stage performance and they bring out a small close-up thing and there's like a video camera up above, it's like it still loses it, because it's not like right there.
Exactly. I'm not a big fan of that. I know a lot of guys do that, but I'm not a big fan of it. To me, magic done, and the thing about magic close-up though is it's got to be an intimate small group. You can't do it for, like you said, without a camera, for 100, 200 people. It's got to be a small group right there who can see the tabletop or whatever, and you've got a great show. That's always been my belief, and I love close-up magic for that aspect.
We have a venue here in Encino, California, called Magic Bar, right? And we put 16 people in that room. That's it.
The best.
It's awesome.
Oh, wow.
It is awesome. It's such an intimate, I mean, we're right there, you know, and we're not, it's one of the most fun places for me to perform. And, you know, and I've even done the close-up, George, I mean, we've done the close-up room, right? We put 22 at the Magic Castle, 24 people in that room. And I've done some of the best shows of my life in that room, where I come away going, that was incredible. Wow, that was one for the history books. That was amazing. And 24 people saw it.
That's the one thing about our lives as close-up magicians. Like, you know, Copperfield does a show and it's 1,000 people and whatever. And us, you know, I can work the whole week at the castle. I've maybe entertained 150 people. So we got to do a lot of shows to get that impact. But those 20 people
Feels
are
great.
experiencing something really that you can't see anywhere else.
Yeah, it's very special.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap this up. So don't forget, it's Magic Up Close, April 17th and 18th at the Nakano Theatre, starring George Tovar and Jonathan Levit. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for taking the time. I certainly do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Can't wait.
Look forward to it. Great talking to you. Take it easy, Jonathan.
See you, George. See you, Christian.